Every winter, we sit here thinking about what went well in the garden and what didn't.
If you're new here,
I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher, and we garden in Zone 6A, Upstate New York.
And when you've gardened long enough, you really get a chance to see what worked in your space and what didn't.
Today we're going to be sharing with you 7 things we wish we'd done differently if we were starting again.
Mistake number 1, keeping plants we didn't love. When we first started gardening back in 2018, we had just moved into our property. It was a brand new build, so it was a blank slate. It was a sandy lot, and we were so excited to fill it with gorgeous plants and create a garden. So we went out to the garden centers and we shopped those clearance racks and those sales sections, and we bought anything we could find that we thought would take up space, and that did not work out well.
No, it did not, because buying on sale is not a design strategy. So we found ourselves with a kind of mishmash of a lot of things that didn't necessarily work together, and looking with the lens of today gardener Eric and Christopher, wow, we made some funny choices. I mean, just because there was a deal didn't mean it was the right choice. We picked up things like a bridal wreath spirea for $5, and those get tremendous, and where we placed it wasn't going to be the right one anyway. We did, however, luck out with a Scotch columnar pine for $5, and that's now a staple of the side of the house, which is luck, because if we had placed that in the wrong spot, it wouldn't have worked out, and we would have had to take all that time to move it.
Actually, our birch tree clumps were clearance plants too at Home Depot. They were like little 5 gallons, and they had 3 sticks in the mesh, and I think they were probably like $5 to $10 each.
Yeah, and now
back at the time.
They are now 20-something feet tall and beautiful.
So we spent a lot of time like buying plants just to have plants to plant, and then that kind of dictated some of the design. It squashes your design instinct when you're limited.
And you know what? One of the birch clumps we moved because we didn't put it in the right spot at first.
That's true.
Don't hold on to plants that are not serving the purpose of your garden and what makes you love your garden just because you picked them up or they were a deal. Just get rid of them. Mistake number 2, landscape fabric. We were duped. We believed that it was going to help with weed suppression, and all it did was suppress the garden.
I mean, it made gardening very difficult. So like a lot of beginner gardeners, we kind of fell for it. We fell for that sales pitch where people think, oh, it's going to stop weeds. It doesn't stop weeds. The weeds just grow on top of the landscape fabric.
You know, you have to add mulch and all these amendments to improve your soil, but they can't make it through the weed fabric, but the weeds love it, and they grow right up through your mulch.
It also makes planting way harder because after you've laid your landscape fabric down, then you've got to cut your little X's in your landscape fabric and pull it back, and then you dig the tiniest little hole, then you put your plant. It's like such a pain to plant in, doesn't prevent weeds. It doesn't let the fertilizers, especially granular or organic fertilizer, move naturally down into the soil. And then it also smothers the soil health in some cases.
Yeah, our biggest culprit moment in this situation was our back east corner. We had built this huge long bed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, before the fence even went in, we started that east border.
Yeah, and we rented a sod cutter. That was a terrible idea because that was really heavy and I was just yelling.
Wait, you forgot to mention that it also rained the day before we decided to use the sod cutter, and we didn't think that that would make it harder to remove the sod.
Or the fact that I thought you should set the sod cutter like 4 inches down. So I was taking up these gigantic thick pieces of sod.
These are a lot of bonus mistakes you're getting right now.
A lot of bonus mistakes. Yeah, skip the sod cutter, leave that to the professionals, but don't worry about landscape fabric. Don't use it.
It's a waste of time and money. Mistake number 3, not installing drip irrigation immediately. And you would have thought we would have known better because when we made this mistake, we were already a number of years into gardening. But back in 2022, when we had our terrace installed and our patio installed, we created those garden beds around the terrace. And we planted all of these gorgeous plants.
So many beautiful things.
In late June. And we just didn't put drip irrigation in because we were like, it'll rain, it'll be fine. It's going to be a wet summer because the summer before was so wet. It was not. There was so much time and energy spent that first summer just hand watering with the hose.
I remember getting text messages at work, and he'd get home a few hours before I did, and he would have just spent 3 hours watering.
Just watering. And I can't help but think that we probably lost out on a lot of growth that first season. Because,
not to mention a lot of plants, because we did lose quite a few things that were in that area.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of plants didn't make it. A lot of growth of the ones that did, because really they would have thrived if they had had steady irrigation the entire time. And, that was the first thing we did as soon as the heat had passed and we were comfortable doing like the labor of drip irrigation installation. And I think we actually recorded it, didn't we? Like one of our very first videos.
There's some rough videos back there, guys. But there is a part 1 and then part 2 of installing drip irrigation. The other thing that's important to remember about installing drip is plants are gonna go. And then once you've mulched and done all of that, it's really hard to like dig the trenches to cover up all of the drip irrigation. So when you have bare soil, especially in a large installation, get that drip down first before the mulch. It's hard enough to go around all of your plantings that you've just put in, but once you've mulched, once those plants get a little size on them, it's just not worth it. Get it down if you're intending to put drip as soon as you can. Continuing on our watering theme with mistake number 4, that would be buying cheap hoses. This is a lesson we probably learned way too many times, buying coiled up fabric hoses and putting them into what looked like a planter sitting next to the hose bib, and you'd pull it out, it wouldn't work. Those things broke, they snapped, they leaked, they were terrible.
And then we get a cheap hose at like Job Lots or something, and the connectors would snap or things wouldn't work. I mean, we wanted to spend our money on the pretty things in the garden. We really wanted to spend money on plants and flowers and things like that. We didn't want to spend money on the utilitarian things, but really, spending your money on a good quality garden hose really makes a huge difference in ease of use for watering your garden.
What's so funny is we did move into using hose reels, and we had a couple experiment years where we didn't invest in quality hose reels either. And now that we do have really great hose reels that are awesome, I'm so happy with those, we ended up realizing the best thing we could do for our garden was install another hose bib way in the back of the property to have a third hose back there. I think we use that one more than we do either of the other two.
I mean, before that new hose bib was installed in the back corner, that back corner of the garden was unreachable by our hoses. We had to like fill watering cans.
Well, when he wasn't looking, I would be standing with the hose and just shooting it 20 feet up in the air.
Oh yeah, you would like stand so far away and like put the little, like hoping it was hitting the plants in the back.
But I think that does go to, I guess I have another bonus mistake. Quality tools. You could spend a lot of money on bad augers if you're buying digging augers or bad trowels. There's nothing worse than digging and then you come back up.
Trowel bending.
The trowel either bending or you come back up, you've got the handle and the actual digging part is still stuck in the soil. So yeah, I would say being mindful of the quality of tools that you need to achieve the kind of gardening you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a huge difference between cheap garden tools and like mid-level garden tools is like a huge step up.
Big step.
Mid-level to high level, not as big of a gap. So you don't need to go all the way to the top. Like mid-level is good, but avoid the cheap stuff. Mistake number 5, buying bagged mulch instead of a bulk delivery. If you can picture us in our garden 5 or 6 years ago, going back and forth to a big box store and buying bag after bag after bag after bag of cheap, stinky bark mulch to then put it in a wheelbarrow, open the bag, dump it out, and you see like no coverage whatsoever because it's only a little 2 cubic square foot bag, going back and doing what a mistake. We didn't even know that you could just call your local landscape center or garden center and ask for a bulk delivery.
That was a big realization when that moment happened. I can remember a couple cars ago, I was so excited I could fit 20 bags of that 4 for $10. Really smelly, stain your hands
and it was
black.
Ugly too. It was like big and chunky.
And occasionally would have like neon green string. All kinds of stuff was in them. That was so great.
It would fade to gray.
Yep, and it would look like charcoal ash all over the garden. So besides that, just the big, huge takeaway when we started having this bulk delivery was the realization that you could also have compost delivered in bulk. And at the garden center, when you're buying a bag of compost, it's a lot more than the mulch.
It's a lot more than a mulch, and it's a much smaller bag, and it's much wetter, and it's much stinkier.
Exactly. But when you get really good, like agricultural, locally produced compost from that same distributor, completely changed the game. If we had started using compost as mulch on our entire garden when we first started, I bet you we could dig down a solid 1.5 feet before we hit that kind of orangey sand.
So we did. We used mulch. We used bark compost as mulch for a number of years, and then I remember always seeing like Gardener's World and them saying, you know, mulch or compost it up in the wintertime to improve your soil health. And I was like, well, our soil is so terrible because it's backfill from new construction. What if we just composted or used mulch as mulch instead of using bark mulch, and it would improve all the soil all over? And so that's what we decided to do. And the great thing about making that switch, if you want to, if your soil calls for it, is you can just put your compost right on top of the bark mulch that's already in your garden.
I would say within 2 years, you could dig somewhere that had like maybe 3-4 years of black mulch and it's gone. That compost, it's so much more alive, just works.
And the other thing is, if you don't like it, like let's say you don't like the look, you like the chunky look or whatever, it's just as easy to go back in with bark mulch and just put that right over the compost. So it's like a win-win. You can't make a mistake by trying it out. So yes, that mistake, I still laugh at the wet, staining interior of our cars from buying dozens and dozens and dozens of bagged bark mulch.
That is for sure. So mistake number 6. That would be when we invested in some pretty pricey self-watering containers.
We were really stoked about them. I think we had seen them on social media or something, and someone was really was having a very positive experience with them. And this is one of those things that's very particular to us. We did not have a good positive experience with self-watering containers.
The containers we got, we liked the design, we liked the color, they seemed really well set up, and we had put them at the front of the house. The problem is, the front of our house, which is south-facing, means that these containers were also sitting on the blacktop, getting the radiation from the sun, like all that heat coming back up at them. So some of the plants did very well, but over time, that water in the reservoir was so hot, so the plants were always languishing, and then, frankly, the holes all plugged up. So the roots would go down, plug up the holes, so we ended up having to water anyway.
And then, if that reservoir emptied out or dried up or whatever, the planter would become so top heavy if we planted anything tall in it, then in the wind it would just blow over. And these were substantially sized planters.
Yeah. So you know what happened with these? We cut the entire inserts out and we gave them to someone else.
Yes, we gave them to my parents, and they're not self-watering anymore because we cut out that self-watering part. That, by the way, couldn't be maintained or repaired because it was all like a single plastic mold, so you couldn't take it apart and clean it. So we just cut it out with a saw, filled it with soil, and then it's just like a regular functioning planter now.
And so if you're looking for the like inserts that are self-watering, look for ones that can be taken apart. So then if you do get roots in there, that would have completely changed the experience.
I think something like the Aquapot inserts would be really good because you can take it apart and clean it. These, I don't remember what they were called, but they just weren't functional. So I would not recommend a self-contained, self-watering pot that can't be taken apart and cleaned. Mistake number 7, not planning for a shed or greenhouse in our garden.
This is an emotional one, I think. It's a little emotional because we didn't realize how much we were gonna love this when we started our initial design plans. And we have the most beautiful terrace, and we love the patio, the pea gravel area. But ultimately, we did not plan for a shed or a greenhouse.
We didn't, because we didn't know the commitment we would have to our space. And initially we thought, because we have a 3-car garage, and obviously each of us only has 1 car, we had that extra bay, and we assumed that that extra bay would be enough for a garden shed space. But we didn't take into account like how many times you go back and forth into your garden shed when you're in the backyard gardening. So that's doesn't seem like a hike, but it does get a little bit annoying after a while.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't take that into account. And, now our garden is so established that, and I'm not saying that we can't do it. We
No.
certainly could. But it would be like a major upheaval in the space to try and create a space for a shed or a greenhouse at this point in time.
It's funny. I'm going to put a drone footage of the entire property from above as it stands right now. So if anyone has a brilliant suggestion for where a greenhouse or garden shed could go, absolutely. Keeping in mind that center of the backyard, which seems like it would be the ideal spot, putting a shed there, that would be a little bit...
so ugly.
That'd be so ugly. And putting a greenhouse there, unless that greenhouse was a stunning second mortgage level greenhouse, that could be something.
And the other thing to consider is now our sides of our house, the side yards are very well planted up. So now getting back there is another thing. So I think it was a big mistake. It's a mistake we can live with.
Yeah.
We might not have to at some point.
Maybe
but,
one day something will change.
Yeah, making that, planning for that shed or that greenhouse in the backyard. Thinking about your workflow in your space is really important. So if you're a beginner gardener or a newer gardener, and just like us, just madly in love with it still, think about your workflow. What are you doing day to day when you're working in the garden, and what do you need? And then try to think of that sooner rather than later.
That would be a very good way to put it. It's all about the workflow. Yes, if we had a garden shed, and I do, sometimes I'll just stare out here. And unlike Eric, I think, what can I rip out? What can I just go out there and start pulling? We'll put a shed right in there.
I mean, I've thought about in that back corner over there where the dry creek bed is, just kind of tucking one in diagonally. I mean, that could be an option. I mean, we can't put one up on the berm because up on the berm, once you hit that peak, then it becomes forever wild and we have to be a certain distance away. Mm-hmm. We can't put a shed in the middle of the backyard. So, if you guys have ideas, put them in the comments below. And if you have ideas for greenhouses, let us know that as well.
Yeah, in a magical world, there will be a beautiful greenhouse that I'm just looking at. In fact, we'd be sitting in it right now, probably.
Yeah, probably.
However, that is our 7 garden mistake list that we really think would have been things we did differently going forward. The truth is, none of these decisions ruined our garden, but they've shaped our garden.
And that's something we've really come to appreciate. Gardens are built through learning, editing, and sometimes doing things the really hard way.
So if you're starting a garden right now, you don't have to get everything right, but maybe if you avoid some of these things that we've done, it might be a little bit more enjoyable.
Spring is coming, so we can't wait to get back outside with you. Click, like, and subscribe. Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us.